Not fine.
No.
Oh, yeah. Mute your speaker, not a mute.
You missed the map?
I missed the map.
Mark, get back.
No, we're not going to do it again. We're not going to do it again. I'll just make reference to it. Oh, well. You do. Okay. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to read through on page 30, starting on page 30 from Hine Pashut Hu. And I will come back to it and refer to it is the second or third paragraph. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And I'll make reference to that which I missed on the tape, which is asking my dear friend Mark to show me something on a map. We'll come back to that. Hine Pashut Hu, it is obvious, it's simple. If Hashem created only one antidote for this makkah, which is the Yetzer Hara, it would be impossible to cure yourself from this makkah, meaning the Yetzer Hara, without the proper antidote Hashem created. If someone thinks they can avoid getting tripped up by the Yetzer Hara by something else, he's mistaken. When is he going to see his actual mistake? A little bit too late. Levasof, at the end, when a person passes away, then come before Hashem. I heard a speaker once, like having a pretend conversation between God and someone who decided to not be religious. In other words, they grew up religious and they decided to toss it. And he went through like 5-10 minutes. I was like one or two lines. He said, God said, I got a question for you. Like you ate bread 406,712 times. You didn't wash. You didn't bench. How come? He said, oh God, I wasn't on that program. And he goes through all these things. And so like, well, I didn't sign up for that. That's not, I'm not in that mode. How is that going to go over well before the Melech Malchei HaMelachim, right? Imagine you get pulled over in a simplistic form. You get pulled over for speeding. And the cop says, didn't you see the sign that said 90 kamash, 90 kilometers an hour? Yeah. Why are you going 110? I don't follow those signs. I have my own signs. I made up my own rules. We wouldn't accept that, but we accept it in other ways. The Yetzer Hara is extremely strong and very stupid, by the way. The Yetzer Hara is very stupid. And I'll prove it to you. Because every year we blow the shofar and Krasatan, we want to the Valbel to mix up the Satan every year by Rosh Hashanah. So we blow here, we blow there. You think after 3,333 years he's going to get the point? And also, when a person, I remember who it was. I think it was maybe Maram Rutenberg when he was in jail. He said the Yetzer Hara was stupid because he came to jail with him. See, he had his freedom. He could have stayed out of jail. When we bleed, and without even us realizing it, the Yetzer Hara gets stronger and stronger, and then eventually rules over us. And if you try all the different machinations and different tricks to outsmart the Yetzer Hara and not using Torah, then what's going to happen? He will not even be aware of the increasing level of his illness. Once it's too late, once he's already in Olam Haba and he hears the final news. So before, when the tape was not yet rolling, I had done this experiment. I had handed a map to someone who could read a map, and I know he can because he's over 40, and said, can you find your way from point A to point B on the map? He said, sure. And I handed the map to him, and he couldn't because the map wasn't the right map. We often go through life thinking we have the right map in our hands, but we realize we have the wrong map, and we can't get from point A to point B without the right information in front of us. So we can try all kinds of things. I'm going to wish away the Yetzer Hara, or whatever kind of things a person might say or do, but forgetting and putting aside and saying, oh, there's really one antidote, and that's Torah. It doesn't just mean sitting and learning Torah day and night. That's not what it means. It doesn't mean that. No one says sitting and learning Torah is the only antidote. It means Torah as a noun, that how we live our lives, when we live our lives based on Torah values, the way the Torah is based on Shulchan Aruch and everything else, that's the antidote. Halamazeh dome. What is this similar to? And I mentioned this last week at the end of the class. Guy goes to the doctor and they recognize, they see what his illness is. And they say to him, he should take a certain medication. Who and he, this guy who never spent a day in medical school, he puts aside the drugs that he was told to take. He says, you know what? I like the green bottle better. I'm going to take that stuff. That person's going to die if it was God forbid, a death, an illness that could lead to death. Now, it sounds like he's like almost like, of course we wouldn't do something like that. Of course not. But what I'm trying to say, it's similar with that statement of I would go over 90, even though it says 90 because I don't follow those signs. We don't think in those terms ever in our daily lives. You don't go to the office if you work for somebody, put your feet up on the desk after 15 minutes, take a cup of coffee and spend 2 hours talking to your friends. And the boss comes over and said, hey, I'm paying you to work, not to sit here and talk to your friends. Yeah, I know, but I have some stuff I need to talk to my friends because he just went to this wedding last night. I heard it was really cool. I want to hear all about it. How long are you going to last in that job? Again, we would never accept that, neither as an employer nor employee, but we do, not we, but people in general terms do accept it with their actions when it comes to our actions relative to Hashem. The same thing is true here. Just like this mashal, this parable of the medicine, so too here. No one recognizes the illness of the Yetzer Hara, nor its the power, the strength that is embedded into it, but rather just the Creator who created the Yetzer Hara. And he warned us. He told us, Torah is the refuah. Who therefore would put that aside, the Torah, i.e., and take what he wants, something else? For sure, the darkness of the physicality will continue and get stronger. He won't realize it until he's completely stuck into the bad stuff. And truly very distant from the truth. He won't even think to say, oh, maybe I'm doing something wrong. It may not be a good example, but it popped into my head. Now, we here, Baruch Hashem, are dati, religious Jews, whatever that means. We try to follow Shulchan Aruch, let's put it that way. But somebody who is Jewish, who is not observant, or someone who's not Jewish, may have had the occasion to be at a restaurant, a non-kosher restaurant, and see how lobster is prepared, right? So lobster is boiled, to the best of my understanding. Now, if you took a lobster and put it in warm water and slowly turn the temperature up until it starts to boil, during that course, the lobster is not going to try to get out of the water as it gets warmer and warmer until it's a little bit too late. They get used to the situation they're in. They don't even realize that their lives, quote unquote, are in danger until it's too late and the fire's too high. This is the same idea over here. He's trying to tell us that, okay, we all do things wrong. There's no question about it. It's just a matter of how much we might do wrong, or to what joy, quote unquote, we might get out of doing something wrong in our lives. But sometimes the farther way, it can be just by the way, a person can be completely religious and very good at everything, and just have one area that's the hardest thing for them to deal with. And they can put that one thing aside and say, look, I don't want to deal with it. My Yetzer Hara is just too strong, until that one thing seeps into other areas of life. But when he involves himself in Torah, I'm going to come back to that sentence in a minute, and sees its ways, its commandments and its warnings, he will reawaken, renew his awakenness. It will bring him back to the right way. Meaning, if a person is doing things, but they still are learning, they're still involved in Torah, it's going to ring that bell. It's going to wake them up and going to make them do something. Notice what he says. Achim hu osek b'Torah. Ashkenazim say the bracha birkat Torah in the morning. La'asok divrei Torah. It doesn't say lilmod divrei Torah. It says la'asok. What's the difference between asok and lilmod? Lilmod is you sit down, you made a bracha in the morning. You're gonna sit and you're gonna learn. We're gonna sit and learn Mesilat Yesharim. You're gonna learn Gemara. You're gonna learn whatever it is. La'asok lehitasek. An esek is a business to be involved in something. I'm busy. I can't talk now. You busy yourself. You're involved with Torah. It means living a Torah life. It doesn't just mean to learn Torah. And I'll prove it to you even. Because if the bracha was just to learn Torah, you should be making the bracha multiple times a day. How is that any different than when you sit down to eat an apple now, and you sit down to eat an apple 3 hours from now, you have to make a borei priyates in both, almost always, in both cases, right? So if I didn't learn this morning, but I did, so let's say I sat down and learned Rambam this morning, right? So I make a bracha, lasok b'divrei Torah, or al divrei Torah, the way I say it, and then I'm finished with it, and then later on I come to Mesilat Yesharim class, so I'll make another bracha. But hopefully, ben levein, in between those times, I'm living a Torah life. That's lasok b'divrei Torah. This is what it says in Yesharim. Halavai, Hashem says, if only oti azvu, they would leave me, v'torati shamaru, and they would still keep my Torah. I'll explain. Shamaru sheba machaziran lemutav, that the light that is in it will return them back to goodness. What does that mean? Doesn't mean Hashem saying, if only they wouldn't keep Torah mitzvahs. That's not what he's saying. Not at all. He's saying that if a person chooses to ignore Hashem, but on the other hand still learns, by the way, it's very simple. What does that mean? I could sit and learn Parshat Shavua. I could sit and learn Gemara, Mesilat Yesharim, and not have any connection that I'm thinking about Hashem at all. Okay, good. It's a good story in this week's parasha. Right? Rivka is a little bit like confused. What's going on here? I got all the stuff going on inside of me. She goes and to ask God, what's happening here? It's a great story. Sefer Bereshit, Lahavdil, is filled with interesting stories, in quotes. Or this is the word of Hashem, and I'm supposed to learn something from this. What does it mean about Telech lidrosh et Hashem? She went to seek out God. That is the first mention of the word Daled Resh Shin in the Torah. When you have the word Midrash, Drusha, Drisha, Doresh, that's the first time that word appears. The concept of lidrosh is also to understand what does Hashem want from us. Okay, I'm not going to get the whole thing right now. So he's saying here in the pasuk that Hashem is saying, look, let them do what they're doing, even though it may not be the right intention. Even if they left me out of the picture, but as they're doing it, it'll come to their senses and realize what still needs to be done and reconnect. Next paragraph, at least in my printing. Part and parcel of this whole process has to be that a person takes some time for themselves and thinks about what they're doing, what they've done. Like he says, I've already discussed, what I've written about. Also, there is this concept, I have said this myself, and it's never true, I think. I'm just so busy. We all have busy lives. But if someone said, I'll have students, they'll say, just before the test, review it. I don't have any time. Oh, tell me, what do? What time do you get up? 6:30. What time do you go to sleep? 1. Okay, cool. So you get up at 6:30, you go to sleep at 1. You're in school X amount of hours, you eat, you play. Where do you not have 4 minutes? Oh, 4 minutes, of course I have. Where do you not have 15 minutes? Well, I'm, gaming. Right. Okay. So what would happen? How many hours do you spend on your phone? I've had students tell me 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. It's a machla. So I said, oh, okay. So you do have time. You have 4 hours. No, I just told you I'm playing. These are real conversations. No, I'm playing, or I'm talking to my friends. They're sitting right next to each other, texting each other. Trust me, I've seen it with my own eyes. Okay, I'll be lazy too. I said, I'm inside the Andy's outside the texter. Okay, fine. I don't want to shout. So you have 4 hours. No, I'm busy. I said, no, you're not busy. You perceive that you're busy, but you're not. You're doing something that's I don't want to say complete waste of time, but it partially is. It's recreation. That's fun. That's good. But you do have the time. And as adults, or hopefully not sitting there gaming 4, 5, 6 straight hours, we also say we're very busy, and we do have busy lives. Because no one's going to say, oh, they have absolutely so much time on their hands, they don't know what to do with themselves day in and day out. Most people. But there's never a time that a person can say in one day, I have no time at all to spend 5 minutes thinking about my day, what I need to do, what I should have done, what I could do better. Nobody. I can't believe it. Is it a rare occasion the day is absolutely insanely crazy that you can't? Maybe, of course. Okay, but tachlis, vast majority of the time, a person has the time. Listen to the words Rav Aviner has here in his book. I didn't send it out to you. Just read this couple sentences. Go back to the statement where it said, if only, Hashem says, if only they left me, but still kept my mitzvot. It doesn't mean to leave God. Of course, it's not ideal that a person should leave God. But even if a person did consciously, unconsciously leave Hashem, but he still learns, the light of Torah will bring him back to the good spot. The main thing is he should learn. And he gives an example. For those of you who've learned Sefer Melachim, and those of you who came to Shir and thought they were learning, but they were with me, Sefer Melachim, remember Chizkiyahu HaMelech. Chizkiyahu HaMelech Yehuda yarash me'aviv umah b'matzav ruchani katastrofali. Chizkiyahu inherited, so to speak, from his father, a nation, the Jews, who were in absolute catastrophic situation spiritually. Shiku'a ad savar b'chatayim. They were up to their neck, buried up to their neck in sin. Amar, he said, Yilamdu Torah. They should learn Torah. That's when his time period they find the Sefer Torah. A whole bunch of stuff in the Navi. But his point was there is that however horrible things were, Torah is the antidote. Even if you don't have it, the idea of mitoch shelo lishma balishma. What does that mean? When a person does something, they don't necessarily do it for the right reason, but eventually they may do it for the right reason. I have a number of friends, myself included, that we first went to learn after high school in Israel. I say it in that direction because that's where I was. At Chutz, I came to Israel, but I went to Israel and to learn. Honestly, I hated it. The first few weeks were hell. I mean, I really, really hated it. I was very homesick. I'd never really been away from home for an extended period of time. I was still a kid. I wasn't even 18 yet. And I had a number of friends who were pretty much in the same boat. We just didn't like it. But I said, okay, there's an expression in addictions counseling, which is fake it till you make it. Just like go through the motions. By the way, that's based on, not on purpose, but it's based on right out of the Sefer Chinuch. That based on the way you act, your heart is drawn towards that. Sorry? That's the point then. Right, very good. You may not be doing it for the right reason. So I sat in the baby Josh and I stared at the Bava Kama. It was Bava Kama. I stared at the Gemara. I paid attention a little bit. But eventually, and not just me, I was with a bunch of guys till 1 o'clock in the morning, Beit Midrash. I wish I could do that now. At 1 o'clock, I've been asleep for 3-4 hours already. But again, you do something. This is exactly the idea. You think I was sitting there in front of my shtender with my Gemara saying, oh yeah, I'm serving Hashem. I'm so happy to be learning Torah and Eretz Yisrael. No, I wasn't. I was happy to be in Israel. I was sad I wasn't in Chicago. I missed my family. So there was this break or this dissonance, right? But eventually it changed. And not just me. I've seen many, many people go through that. Okay, let's continue to finish this paragraph here. He says, and don't forget, you have some free time from your busy schedule. If he's smart, he will not waste that time. He'll grab hold of it and not loosen his grip. To use that free time wisely, to think about what he's done or she has done and what should be done to repair that which has been messed up. Now it sounds like, would you say this is an easy thing to do or a difficult thing to do? The general idea here, remember he said there are three things that distance someone from being careful to not do the wrong thing. One was we're busy. Number two is frivolity, which we're going to talk about. And the third one is being involved with or having like being in bad company. Would you say this is an easy one or difficult one to overcome? What would you think? This idea of we have busy lives, and that's what really prevents us from being more careful to not do the wrong thing. You think it's hard? Which would you say is harder, that or being surrounded by bad company, or the idea of mocking everything, which to get over, to kind of break from that cycle? Which would be harder? Right. Okay. So Judy's saying that it's individual. You can't necessarily make a across the board statement, but he does. Ramchal tells us the following: this item, this idea that we have busy lives, even though it's more general, more broad, meaning that it applies to more people because most people say that they're busy. It's easier. It's not the most difficult task to overcome. I just told you. You can find 5 minutes in your day. If someone here said that they are so busy they cannot find 5 minutes in a day, I will sit with them one time for 20 minutes, and I'll prove to you can find much more than 5 minutes in a day. So it's, quote, relatively easy to find a spot in your time to work on yourself. Yes, Judy.
But I think it has to do a lot with people's mindsets. And
definitely has to do with mindset.
Scheme of life. So when you're a young mother, it's very different than when you lose your defense.
No question. You're saying that there's a difference between the person's stage where they are in life. Person who's a young mother, and repeating for a young mother has different type of busyness in her day than someone who is retired and can choose. There's no question about it. But keep in mind also, sometimes the busier someone is in that respect, the less they have time to really do something wrong. It's hard to do something wrong. You're just changing diapers and feeding and so. Go back to the lobster.
Sometimes you're not even aware.
Right.
You're not even aware. It's sneaking up on you.
That's exactly his point. It's not correct.
Or unconscious decision that you're making, or a conscious.
Right.
You're not saying, I'm going to choose to do this. It's
right.
Like in your environment, it's sort of like pervasive and invasive.
Right.
And you don't even... Okay,
so really what you're saying, there's two things you said there, and that's the first of his three, and this is the last of his three, which has to do with your environment, and it has to do with life getting in the way. Right. The people say to me,
yeah,
right, yes,
but there's also so many other factors.
Right.
Going on.
It's all, and I think I'll go back to what you said also earlier, is that it's all individual and personal to each person. That's correct. No question about it. There is no right or wrong here. There's just, I think his point here has to do with awareness of all three stages we're going to talk about, which you just finished the first one. You're going to get to the second one now, is different steps and things to be aware of, and they can coincide. They can be all three at the same time that you have to deal with. Yeah.
A lot of times when you're at the stage in your life where you're very busy, you bury yourself in the busyness, in the actions, in the lot, and you don't think about the fact that you're even a person.
Right.
You say, I'm a mother, and this is what I do. I change diapers, and I let the kids here, and I do this, and I do that. And a lot of the young women that I counseled many years ago never even thought of themselves
as an individual, right?
They thought of themselves as a mother and a wife and a daughter, maybe, and a sister. And they said, where is you?
The individual as a person. So Judy is saying, just to repeat, is that very often you'll find a person is, and she's using an example of a mother, is just so busy involved in being the mother or the wife that they forget that they are the individual also, that they have their own persona that has to be looked at and tended to, which is true in that respect. Is true also a person who bears themselves day and night in work, in business, and other areas. That's you're correct. The next stage or next topic he's going to deal with that is something that prevents people from properly doing what they're supposed to, meaning staying away from the negative. Remember, this whole series, the first few chapters, is Sur Meira, staying away from bad stuff. The next one we go to is going to be Asay Tov. Right now we're on Zehirut, being watchful, being vigilant. What prevents that? It's going to sound like something that doesn't make any sense. Now, you know me. I like to joke around. We all like to laugh. Who doesn't like to laugh? I don't make you laugh, but you don't like to laugh?
Once again, there's a hairline.
Yes.
Between laughter
and frivolity. Okay. We're not talking about that though, right? Not talking about that at all. He's going to talk about is something that I'm going to translate into English is, I don't know what your book says, is frivolity. But let me explain to you what that means. Because when I've taught this before, almost everyone looks at me and said, like, what's wrong with laughter? I go to stand-up guy. Listen to Adir Miller. Well, you got to put him on slow speed just to hear. I don't care how good your Hebrew or your English. You know who Adir Miller is? Oh, just look him up on you all know who Robin Williams was, yes? Yeah. Okay, so picture Robin Williams on steroids in Hebrew. Right. Okay, he has no script. It's all interactive with the audience. He's the guy, if you ever see the commercials for was it Muchedet or one of them, he says Me'usharet. He says his name is Howard. You ever see any of these online, these commercials? Oh my God. You got to spend more time online and not learning Torah. Oh, you're so busy to go online. You see how busy I am, obviously. So in any case, so you're listening to use his name, Adir Miller. He's so funny that I've actually had to put it on pause sometimes because I can't stop laughing. He's that funny and that good. And I have Baruch Hashem, Hebrew can be spoken as fast as it wants, and I can, but it's not a matter of getting the Hebrew into your brain. It's catching the jokes that are coming to you at 150 miles an hour, and he's already on to the next one until you just realize what he just said to that person. He's 2 people ahead. What's wrong with that? The answer is nothing, unless that's what you're doing all day. That could be a problem. But what is he going to talk about? He's not going to talk about just laughter and joking around. He's going to talking about using that laughter and joking around as far as mocking Hashem or more his Torah. I have heard more times than I care to count. Oh, please, the rabbis just made that up. I'm sure you've all heard that from somebody. But what? You can't do that on Shabbat? Oh, give me a break. The rabbis love making up stuff. Yeah? Huh? They don't. You know, I've actually had someone, I use this as an example when I teach kids for the first time teaching Gemara. So if you realize, if you learn Gemara, even if you don't, you know that there are famous names or pairs of people who always had arguments. Abaye and Rava, right? So Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, all kinds of names. So kids said, what do they have in the Beit Midrash? They have a dartboard. Okay, you say it's asur, I'm going to say it's mutar. They each had their shita, they had their approach. But when you start mocking Torah and you say that it doesn't make any sense, therefore I'm not going to do it, or just deciding that, you know, religious Judaism is not for me because you've decided to make that decision on your own. Now, I don't want to even mention the name of the series that's gotten a lot of publicity lately of the woman who left the Orthodox fold. I didn't want to watch it. I won't watch it. The good thing that came out of it is that I understand a lot of women did go online and post little statements about themselves about what a religious woman can do in life and accomplish and still be Orthodox. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's good. It's a very unorthodox type of approach to discuss. I'm not going to mention the name of the series though, which will never watch. Those kind of things where you truly mock the Torah is what can distance a person from doing what they're supposed to do, and cause them to do things they shouldn't do. Take a look. Achasheni, the second one, hinehu kashem me'od. It's very difficult to overcome. I'm just going to again translate it again. How does it say in your English? Frivolity? What do you have if you have English? Jesting and what? Mockery? Levity. Scoffing. Okay, there really is a great translation for it. But okay. What's that? Thesaurus did very well. Yes. Kimisha tovea bam, one who sinks into this world, this life of frivolity, scoffing, whatever else you said. Who kimisha tovea bayama gadol, is if he's sinking into, well, it'd mean the Mediterranean, but just into the ocean, into the sea. Shekashe me'od lihimalek mimeno, it's very difficult to escape. Kihine hasechok hu me'abed et lev ha'adam. Frivolity causes a person to lose their heart, meaning to lose their sense. Because at that point, you can't reason with such an individual. They're no different than a drunk or an imbecile who it's impossible to deal with them in any way of intellect or to give them any direction, because they will not accept any direction. Okay, so first of all, what's it mean? He specifically uses the example of a shikor, a drunk. Now, in parentheses, I'm not sure if you know, there are actually scientific studies that show that someone who is sleep deprived has the same physiological problems as a drunk when it comes to driving, when it comes to making their thought processes and all. So let's just use the drunk as an example. Is drinking bad? It's a very general question. Is it bad? No, not a bad thing. Potentially it is. That's like fire. Is fire bad or good? Yes, it's both. You're going to burn, God forbid, someone's house down. It's bad, but it's good. Like what water is the same thing. Person, God forbid, could drown, or it's a source of life. Everything has some form of positive and negative to it, including Torah. 1,000% including Torah, by the way. Yes, it can be used as a weapon. People who weaponize Torah. Oh, that's a whole different discussion. All right, good. I look forward. I'm gonna turn my phone off. So, but a drunk. So I was saying that a person can have something to drink. I don't particularly care to drink, but if I have to have one shot of something, it's not going to make me drunk. It's not going to change my life. It's not, you won't be able to not reason with me. But someone who is drunk, it's going to be hard to reason with someone. Give me your keys. You can't drive. Oh, I'm fine. I can drive. Whatever it might be. So why does he use the example of a drunk? Because some joy and happiness and joking around and goofing around in life is fine. But to get to the point where the drunk, where that's your life, that everything's a joke, absolutely everything. There's, I shouldn't say this out loud, but I will. It's really sad that you can't use corporal punishment in school. I know I've mentioned this, I think, a couple times, because all you need to do is a couple times to a couple kids, and the rest of the kids will learn their lesson, I would hope. There's this one student, he's not mine. And I before I said anything to the student, after I was walking by the other day and I said something to him, and he said to me as follows, Achi, seventh grade, Achi. I said, stop. First of all, I'm not your brother. I'm in Hebrew. I'm not your ach. He's just, everything's just, So I said to myself, you're almost 63. He's a little pisher. Leave him alone. Then I went to start, talk to the mechanech. What's the story? So I found out the kid has serious emotional issues. Okay, some of it there, I overlook it now, but inside it gets to you. So with that kind of a child, to try to reason with them why they should go to class and should sit down and listen and not disrupt and not talk to someone who's quite a bit older than them in a disrespectful way, you can't do it. But I have had a student, I have a girl who's whatever, she's young, 11, 12. We've been learning already for a couple of years. And one time, just once, she's in the middle of talking, and she had forgotten to take her meds that day, for real. And she was talking to her, and I started to interrupt. She said, don't interrupt me. I said, oh, stop right there, young lady. You just crossed the line. You do not ever say that to me, ever. And she apologized. She never said it again since then. So you can reason with someone like that because they're in their right mind. So what he's saying is by intimation here, referring to it like a shikor, is yes, some is okay. But to go to the extreme, you will not be able that's all your life is mocking Torah and mocking God, God forbid, and all. Doesn't add up, not going to help. Okay, I'm going to stop here. As of now, Bezrat Hashem, we will have class next week. The next one after that is in question. I'm not sure yet. I'll let you know. But in the meantime, I wish you all a wonderful day, and hope you have a great week ahead. And find those 5 minutes. You'll find them. Trust me, you'll find them.